The night sky in December 2044 will stage a performance unseen for millennia. A precise cosmic alignment of distant worlds will unfold, a silent ballet of planets that some believe is not a random show but a deliberate signal. This is the story of the cosmic alignment of 2044 and the extraordinary prediction that it heralds the return of extraterrestrial visitors. By the end of this journey, you will possess a complete understanding of this profound mystery, from its scientific roots to its earth-shattering implications. We will investigate whether this alignment is a celestial coincidence or a pre-arranged meeting point written in the stars themselves. We will uncover who made this prediction and why it has captured the global imagination. What do you believe we will find when those planets finally fall into line? A cosmic alignment is not a simple line in the sky, but a profound conversation of gravity and geometry. It is a moment when multiple planets from our vantage point on Earth appear to gather closely together in a specific sector of the solar system. For the event predicted for December 2044, the key players are the majestic outer giants Jupiter and Saturn, joined by Uranus and Neptune. Picture our solar system not as a flat disk, but as a dynamic, three-dimensional dance floor. Each planet moves at its own distinct rhythm, completing laps around the Sun over periods ranging from 12 years for Jupiter to a staggering 165 years for Neptune. For all four of these distant worlds to converge into a tight cluster, visually speaking from our earthly perspective, requires an almost unimaginable synchronization of their vastly different orbital clocks. This is not a lineup where they touch, but a gathering where they will all share the same neighborhood of the night sky, a rare and striking celestial congregation. To understand the sheer rarity of this, we must look back through time. A grand alignment of all four outer planets happens, on average, only once every 170 years or so. The last such notable grouping occurred in the early 1900s, a period that ushered in the dawn of aviation, radio, and profound shifts in global power structures. Before that, a similar alignment was recorded in the 1600s, coinciding with the scientific revolution and the telescopic discoveries of Galileo. While correlation is not causation, history shows that these rare celestial events have often punctuated eras of massive human transformation and collective awakening. The 2044 alignment, however, is being singled out as exceptionally precise. Early astronomical projections suggest the planets will not just be in the same general area, but will form an unusually tight and geometrically significant pattern, one that some researchers argue could act as a kind of cosmic beacon, visible across interstellar distances. This leads to the compelling and unsettling question at the heart of our mystery. Could this alignment be more than a beautiful accident? Could it, in fact, be a deliberate marker, a date circled on a calendar not made on Earth? This instinct to read the sky as a message is woven deep into our history. For as long as we have looked upward, we have seen not just points of light, but patterns and portents. Ancient monuments stand as stone testaments to this belief. The great stones of Stonehenge are positioned to frame the sunrise on the summer solstice, a moment of maximum light that our ancestors likely saw as a divine renewal. The pyramids of Giza are aligned with astonishing precision to the cardinal directions, and some shafts within them point directly toward stars sacred to Egyptian cosmology, like the pole star Thuban. These were not random constructions, they were colossal calendars and celestial observatories, built to harmonize human life with the perceived rhythms of the heavens. The sky was a clock, a map, and a scripture written in fire. This interpretation extended to sudden celestial events as well. Many historians and astronomers now theorize that the legendary Star of Bethlehem, which guided the Magi in the biblical narrative, may have been a rare and brilliant triple conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. To the astrologers of the ancient world, such a meeting of the kingly planets in the constellation of Pisces would have been a staggering omen, a sign of profound change and the birth of a new era. They did not see a random orbital coincidence, they saw a deliberate announcement. Across cultures and millennia, comets were feared as harbingers of doom, eclipses as the anger of the gods, and the orderly march of planets as the movement of celestial beings. The cosmos was alive, intelligent, and communicative. Our modern scientific mind has largely replaced gods with gravity and omens with orbital mechanics. Yet the core impulse remains startlingly similar. When we today look at the predicted alignment of 2044 and whisper the question, could this be a signal? We are participating in a tradition as old as civilization itself. We are still searching the stars for meaning, for connection, for a sign that we are not alone in the immense silence. The language we use has changed from prophecy to astrophysics, but the yearning gaze heavenward is exactly the same. So, who in our modern age first gave voice to this ancient suspicion, transforming a celestial event into a specific prediction of contact? The name that echoes most persistently through this modern prophecy is that of a man named Sheldon Niddle. In the 1990s, Niddle, who described himself as a spiritual teacher and channeler, began disseminating a series of detailed messages he claimed were transmitted from a collective of benevolent extraterrestrial beings called the Galactic Federation. Within this dense tapestry of cosmic guidance, a specific date was emphasized: December 2044. According to Niddle's channeled communications, this period would mark a monumental shift for humanity, coinciding with a great celestial alignment that would facilitate open contact and a global spiritual awakening. His predictions were elaborate, describing mass landings of ships, the unveiling of advanced technology, and a transformation of human society. While Niddle's work is viewed with deep skepticism by the scientific community, and even within broader UFO research circles, it served as a potent seed crystal. The specific date, married to the idea of a planetary alignment, found fertile ground in the emerging internet culture of the time, spreading from niche spiritual forums into the wider landscape of alternative knowledge. It is crucial to understand that Niddle was not an astronomer. His predictions sprang from claimed psychic revelation, not celestial mechanics. Yet, the human mind seeks patterns, and the subsequent discovery by astronomers that a rare alignment of outer planets would indeed occur in that very same window of time created a powerful, almost eerie resonance. The prophecy gained a veneer of scientific plausibility it never originally possessed. This fusion is where the idea truly took hold, transforming from an obscure channeling into a persistent cultural meme. Other figures have since been woven into the narrative. Certain remote viewers, individuals who use controlled intuition to perceive distant events, have also described 2044 as a pivotal inflection point, a time of unprecedented transparency and contact. Their sessions, often cryptic and symbolic, are interpreted by followers as corroboration. The prediction's journey from the fringe to a topic of broader speculation is a classic case of synchronicity, where a claimed psychic message and a verifiable astronomical event converged, creating a story too compelling to ignore. Regardless of one's belief in the source, the prediction itself has achieved a life of its own, detached from its controversial origins. It asks us to confront a fundamental tension. How do we weigh the cold calculations of orbital ephemeris against the warm, compelling narratives of prophecy? This tension forces us to examine not the stars but ourselves and our timeless desire for the sky to finally speak back. The universe operates on laws, not legends, and to understand what the alignment truly means, we must consult those who read its language of mathematics and light. Mainstream astronomy offers a perspective that is both breathtaking and brutally pragmatic. When we speak with astrophysicists about the 2044 event, their enthusiasm is genuine, but their interpretation is clear. They describe a beautiful and rare visual phenomenon, a chance snapshot in the billion-year movie of our solar system's evolution. The gravitational pull of these distant planets on Earth during such an alignment, however, is negligible, less than the tidal influence you feel from the person standing next to you. The idea that this configuration could trigger earthquakes, alter Earth's axis, or open some kind of energetic portal is a persistent myth, one firmly debunked by the sheer scale of space and the weakness of gravity over such vast distances. The planets are breathtakingly far apart, even when they appear close together in our sky. If you scaled the solar system down to where the Sun was the size of a grapefruit, Jupiter would be over 1,000 feet away and Neptune would be nearly a mile distant. Their beautiful lineup is a trick of perspective, not a physical gathering that could ever destabilize our world. Yet, within this scientific rigor lies another, more tantalizing possibility, one embraced by the serious search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI. While the alignment itself may not affect Earth, its predictability is its most powerful feature. For a civilization looking at our solar system from light years away, this grand clockwork convergence of giant worlds would be a glaringly obvious and repeating signature. An advanced species planning a message or even a visit might use such a predictable, galaxy-wide event as a universal timing beacon. Think of it like agreeing to meet someone at the Empire State Building, not just on a specific date, but at the precise moment the sun aligns between two specific buildings across the city. It is a coordinate in time as much as in space. From this SETI-informed viewpoint, the alignment is not a cause, but a potential marker, a natural cosmic billboard so conspicuous that any technological civilization monitoring our star could not miss it. It provides a shared reference point, a date that could be circled on calendars across the galaxy. This scientific perspective does not drain the mystery, it reframes it. It shifts the question from, will this alignment do something to us, to a far more profound inquiry. Could this alignment be used to signal us? The clockwork precision of the heavens may hold no special power, but it could provide the perfect schedule for a meeting long awaited. That idea of a universal timing beacon leads us directly into one of the most compelling frameworks in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, often called the beacon hypothesis. It proposes a simple, elegant solution to a galaxy-sized problem. How do you get the attention of countless emerging civilizations, all at different stages of technological development, scattered across the vast ocean of space? The answer may lie not in building a transmitter of unimaginable power, but in using the universe's own existing infrastructure. Think of pulsars, those rapidly spinning neutron stars that flash with metronomic precision like cosmic lighthouses. Their rhythmic pulses are so reliable they are used as navigational markers. An advanced species could subtly modify the pattern of a nearby pulsar, embedding a code within its natural beat, a signal hidden in plain sight for anyone who learns to listen beyond the noise. Or consider the predictable dimming of a star as a large planet transits across its face. Aligning a powerful transmission with that exact, predictable moment would tell an observer, this is not stellar weather, this is a deliberate signpost. From this perspective, a grand planetary alignment in a young solar system is the ultimate billboard. It is a spectacle written in gravity that any civilization with a basic understanding of orbital mechanics could predict millennia in advance. If you wanted to send a message that said, "We are here and we know you might be watching," you would choose a moment of maximum cosmic visibility. The alignment of 2044 is precisely that, a scheduled performance in the celestial theater. It is not about the planets doing anything special. It is about them being on stage together, creating a shared moment of attention for anyone looking our way. A relatable analogy is planning a global synchronized event, like a charity fundraiser, to coincide with a total solar eclipse. You do not use the eclipse's power, you use its schedule. Everyone knows when and where it will happen, allowing people across the planet to coordinate around that singular, predictable event. In the same way, a civilization aiming for contact might use the 2044 alignment as a universal calendar reminder. They could aim a powerful, information-rich signal toward our solar system, timed to arrive precisely as those distant giants gather in our sky. For us, the moment would be a double revelation, the awe of the alignment itself, followed by the staggering realization that the silence has been broken by a message stamped with a cosmic return address. This hypothesis transforms the alignment from a passive spectacle into a potential welcome mat laid out across the galaxy. It suggests a patience and foresight that bends the human mind, a plan set into motion perhaps centuries or even millennia ago, waiting for the clockwork of our solar system to reach a specific preordained configuration. The real question then becomes not if the sky will speak, but what we have built to hear it. This notion of a scheduled cosmic meeting resonates with one of the most provocative ideas in modern pop archaeology, the ancient astronaut theory. At its core, this theory proposes a radical reinterpretation of human history, suggesting that extraterrestrial visitors did not just watch from afar, but actively intervened in our ancient past. Proponents argue that many of our gods, miracles, and technological leaps were not divine or purely human inventions, but the result of contact with advanced beings from the stars. The colossal precision of the pyramids, the mystifying Nazca lines visible only from the air, and ancient texts filled with descriptions of flying chariots and weapons of unimaginable power are all presented as potential evidence of this forgotten contact. If we entertain this possibility, even as a thought experiment, the prediction for 2044 takes on a profoundly different character. It would not represent a first hello, but a long-awaited return. Imagine a parent culture, one that seeded knowledge or guided our infancy, setting a date to check on its progeny's progress. The alignment then becomes less a beacon for strangers and more a homing signal for family. This framework gives new weight to certain enigmatic passages found across ancient mythologies. The Hindu Vedas speak of Vimanas, detailed flying machines. The Book of Ezekiel describes a wondrous wheel within a wheel descending from the heavens. Even the promise in some traditions that the gods or star people would one day come back could be read not as spiritual metaphor, but as a literal astronomical appointment passed down through generations. The theory suggests our ancestors may have recorded a prophecy they did not fully understand, a memory of visitors who said they would return when the stars were right. The 2044 alignment provides that specific, calculable condition, the right stars. This transforms the entire narrative from a hopeful guess into a potential fulfillment of an ancient covenant, a promise etched not in stone but in the predictable motions of the planets themselves. It asks us to consider whether the awe we feel today, looking at star charts for December 2044, is the same awe our ancestors felt when they carved celestial maps into their temples, waiting for the sky to once again come alive. So if a message is timed to that cosmic rendezvous, what exactly would we be searching for? The classic image of alien contact is a crackling radio signal, a simple mathematical sequence beamed across the void. But for a civilization capable of using a planetary alignment as a calendar, their communication might be far more sophisticated and far stranger than we have ever imagined. Radio waves are a logical starting point, a technology we understand, a powerful, narrow-band signal aimed precisely at our solar system and pulsing with a pattern based on prime numbers or universal constants would be an unmistakable artificial signature. Our global network of radio telescopes, from the venerable Arecibo site to the sprawling square-kilometer array, would be listening intently, their massive dishes tuned to the quiet corner of space where Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune gather. But what if they have moved beyond radio? Consider the laser, a tightly focused pulse of light modulated to carry immense amounts of data, could be fired across interstellar distances with pinpoint accuracy. Our optical telescopes, including the profound eye of the James Webb Space Telescope, could potentially detect an anomalous, rhythmic flickering from a point within the alignment, a star that seems to be blinking in a complex, intelligent code. Then there are the truly exotic possibilities, a burst of neutrinos, those ghostly particles that pass through almost everything, could carry a message impervious to cosmic interference. We have only just begun building detectors sensitive enough to catch them, but by 2044 we may have the tools. Or perhaps the signal is not something we detect with an instrument, but something we see with our own eyes. Imagine astronomers tracking the alignment with perfect precision, only to witness a profound anomaly. As the planets draw into their tightest formation, a new point of light appears among them, holding steady. It is not a comet, not an asteroid. It is an object where no object should be, a star that is not a star, positioned exactly at the gravitational sweet spot of the alignment. This would be a visual declaration, a craft or a beacon placing itself at the center of the celestial event, confirming its purpose as a meeting point. The hunt for such a signal is already, in a sense, underway. Scientists are developing algorithms to sift through mountains of data from telescopes, searching for the one pattern that breaks all natural laws. They are preparing for every conceivable form a hello could take. This transforms the alignment from a distant date on a calendar into the focal point of the greatest scientific investigation in human history. Every eye, both human and mechanical, that can be turned to that patch of sky will be watching, not just in awe of the planets, but in breathless anticipation of what might appear between them. The real message may not be in a transmission we decode, but in the simple, shattering act of something being there, waiting for us, exactly when and where the ancient sky said it would be. The silence of space is not a quiet we ignore. As the date draws nearer, a legitimate question arises: is anyone in an official capacity actually preparing for this moment? The answer reveals a fascinating split between open scientific inquiry and the shadowy realm of speculation. On the public stage, the scientific community approaches 2044 with rigorous professionalism, not as prophets awaiting a message, but as astronomers observing a rare event. Major observatories worldwide, from the Twin Keck telescopes in Hawaii to the European Southern Observatory in Chile, will undoubtedly have their schedules booked. Their goal will be pure planetary science, capturing unprecedented, high-resolution images of the aligned giants to study their atmospheres, moons, and intricate gravitational interplay. This data is a treasure trove for understanding our own solar system's history. Simultaneously, projects dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence view the alignment through a different lens. While no public program has announced a campaign named Operation 2044, the core mission of initiatives like Breakthrough Listen is perpetual readiness. This ambitious project, funded by billionaire Yuri Milner, uses some of the world's most powerful radio telescopes to scan millions of stars for artificial signals. Its scientists have stated they prioritize observations of unusual astronomical events. A once-in-a-century planetary alignment visible across the galaxy fits that description perfectly. It is almost certain that when the time comes, Breakthrough Listen's massive data collectors will be silently trained on that precise patch of sky, their algorithms sifting the cosmic static for any pattern that whispers intelligence. This is not an admission of belief in the prophecy, but a logical application of their scientific mandate. If you are listening for a hello, you pay extra attention when the universe hangs up a sign that says meeting in progress. The SETI Institute operates on similar principles. Its researchers often speak of using natural cosmic milestones as sensible focal points for concentrated listening. So, in the realm of open science, the preparation is real, meticulous, and data-driven, but its motivation is curiosity, not expectation. It is the difference between a fisherman casting a net in a promising tide and a sailor awaiting a specific ship. The deeper, more tantalizing question lies in the shadows beyond the reach of public telescope schedules. For decades, rumors have swirled about government protocols for extraterrestrial contact. Declassified documents from various nations show that, historically, military and intelligence agencies have indeed drafted contingency plans, often treating potential contact as a national security or airspace incursion issue. The infamous United States Air Force Project Blue Book and the more recent, discrete investigations by the Pentagon's Aerial Phenomena Task Force illustrate an enduring official interest in unexplained aerial events. If a credible, verified signal were detected in 2044, it would trigger a global crisis management scenario of unimaginable scale. One can reasonably assume that within the sealed vaults of intelligence agencies in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and elsewhere, there exist classified playbooks with titles like Cosmic Contingency or First Contact Protocol. These would not be about welcoming ambassadors, but about assessing threat, controlling information, and managing geopolitical panic. The real preparation may be less about listening for a signal and more about preparing for the societal earthquake its confirmation would cause. This creates a profound duality as we approach the alignment. On one hand, scientists in lab coats will calmly collect petabytes of data. On the other, officials in secure rooms may be reviewing plans for a world that has just learned it is not alone. The world is both passively watching the most beautiful clock in the universe and, in ways we cannot see, secretly bracing for the moment it might finally chime. This collision of hope and fear is not a new phenomenon. It is the very heartbeat of our relationship with the cosmos. The prediction for 2044 acts like a mirror, reflecting our deepest collective anxieties and our most soaring aspirations back at us. On one hand, the hope is a luminous, powerful force. It is the dream of cosmic companionship, of finally knowing we are not a lonely accident in a silent universe. It is the yearning for technological enlightenment, the belief that contact could bring solutions to our most intractable problems, from disease to environmental collapse, lifting humanity into a new age of peace and understanding. This hope speaks to a fundamental human desire for meaning, for a larger story in which we play a part. It suggests our struggles are not in vain, that we are being watched, perhaps even guided toward a greater destiny. Yet, shadowing that brilliant hope is an equally powerful primal fear. It is the fear of the unknown, of a power so vastly superior that our entire history, our wars, our art, our love, could be rendered insignificant in an instant. Decades of science fiction have drilled this narrative into our cultural psyche, from the predatory invaders of War of the Worlds to the chilling cosmic horrors of more recent tales. This fear is not just of invasion, but of erasure, of being deemed unworthy or simply irrelevant by beings whose motives we cannot possibly comprehend. It taps into a deep-seated tribal instinct, the fear of the other, magnified to a galactic scale. We have seen this psychological drama play out before in stunning clarity. On October 30th, 1938, Orson Welles and his Mercury Theatre broadcast a radio adaptation of H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds, presented as a series of breaking news bulletins. The effect was societal lightning in a bottle. Despite multiple announcements that it was a drama, a significant portion of the listening public believed Martians were actually invading New Jersey. Reports described panic, people fleeing their homes, clogging roads, and calling police in sheer terror. This was not a story about mass stupidity, but a profound lesson in psychology. In an era of growing geopolitical tension and the new, pervasive power of radio, the framework of an alien threat plugged directly into pre-existing anxieties. The broadcast did not create the fear, it simply gave it a shape and a voice. It revealed how thin the veneer of civilization can be when confronted with the utterly incomprehensible. The 2044 prediction operates on a slower, grander scale, but it triggers the same core mechanisms. It presents us with a slow-approaching, incomprehensible possibility, and our minds race to fill the void with both our brightest hopes and our darkest nightmares. Ultimately, this duality forces us to confront fundamental questions about ourselves, not about aliens. Are we a species ready for such a revelation? Would proof of other intelligence unite us as one human family, or shatter us into factions based on who believes the message and who calls it a hoax? The alignment is a celestial event, but the true test may be terrestrial, played out in the human heart. It asks whether our curiosity can outweigh our fear, and whether our desire for connection is stronger than our instinct for suspicion. As the planets slowly converge, so too do our collective hopes and dreads, building toward a moment that will test not just our technology, but our very psyche. But a mind dazzled by the stars must also learn to navigate by the cold light of reason. For every grand vision of cosmic contact, a chorus of skeptics offers a far more grounded and often far more convincing explanation. The most powerful counterargument is not about astronomy, but about the inner workings of the human mind itself. We are, by our very nature, pattern-seeking creatures. This trait, which helped our ancestors spot predators in tall grass or predict seasonal rains, has a profound downside in the modern age known as confirmation bias. We instinctively seek out and give greater weight to information that confirms what we already believe, while dismissing or ignoring evidence that contradicts it. In the context of the 2044 prediction, this means a person who hopes for alien contact will see the rare planetary alignment as stunning validation, while overlooking the immense logical leap required to connect a celestial event to an interstellar visit. They might also gravitate toward Niddle's channelings or vague remote viewing sessions that support the idea, while disregarding the vast ocean of failed prophecies and pseudoscientific claims that surround them. This bias is powerfully amplified by something called the Forer effect, named for psychologist Bertram Forer. He demonstrated that people will often accept vague, general personality descriptions as uniquely accurate for them. This same principle applies to prophecies. A prediction like "a great change will come when the heavens align" feels deeply personal and true because it is so broad it can fit countless interpretations. A personal awakening, a political shift, a technological breakthrough, or, yes, alien contact. The prophecy seems to speak directly to us because we are the ones pouring our own hopes and fears into its empty vessel. History provides a sobering cemetery of failed predictions that felt just as compelling in their time. From the panic over the alignment of planets in the 1980s that inspired the best-selling book The Jupiter Effect, which predicted catastrophic earthquakes, to the meticulously promoted doomsday of December 21, 2012, tied to the Mayan calendar, humanity has a long track record of projecting existential drama onto the calendar. Each of these dates arrived and passed with neither catastrophe nor cosmic revelation, leaving only a trail of faded headlines and a lesson in collective psychology. The promoters of such ideas often operate with motives that are decidedly terrestrial. For some, it is financial, selling books, exclusive seminars, or branded merchandise centered on the prophecy. For others, it is the powerful currency of attention and influence, building a devoted following by offering the ultimate secret, the inside track on humanity's destiny. This is not to say every believer is dishonest, but the ecosystem that sustains these predictions is frequently fueled by more than altruistic curiosity. It is crucial to separate the beautiful, objective fact of the planetary alignment, a real and predictable astronomical event, from the sprawling, subjective narrative of alien return that has been grafted onto it. The alignment is a clock, but we are the ones imagining a chime. A rigorous skeptic would ask a series of pointed questions. If an advanced civilization wanted to signal us, why use a method that requires us to have both advanced astronomy and a specific, obscure prophecy from the 1990s to understand it? Why choose a date so far in the future rather than sending a continuous, obvious beacon? And most damningly, why would they entrust their grand return to a message received through psychic channeling, a method utterly unverifiable and historically fraught with fraud? From this viewpoint, the 2044 narrative is a classic modern myth, a fusion of a genuine celestial wonder with our ancient, enduring desire for transcendence and meaning. It is a story we tell ourselves because the silent, mechanistic universe of pure science can feel cold and lonely. The prediction, in the end, may tell us nothing about aliens, but volumes about our own need for a universe that is not indifferent, for a story where we are not alone on the page. This critical perspective does not rob the alignment of its majesty. It simply anchors that majesty in the demonstrable laws of physics rather than in our dreams. It challenges us to appreciate the dance of the planets for what it truly is, a breathtaking spectacle of cosmic order without requiring it to be anything more. Yet, even with this sobering analysis, a sliver of profound possibility remains, not in the prophecy, but in the silent, waiting sky itself. The digital age did not just carry this story, it fundamentally rewired and amplified it. The prediction of 2044 found its first modern home in the early internet's shadowy corners, on niche forums and dedicated websites where spiritual seekers and UFO enthusiasts gathered. These were intimate, text-heavy spaces where the idea could simmer, debated by a small but passionate few. It was a slow burn fueled by lengthy posts and scanned documents. Then the social media explosion changed everything. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and later TikTok and YouTube transformed that slow burn into a wildfire. A compelling graphic showing the planetary alignment overlaid with a cryptic date could be shared millions of times in hours. YouTube became a particular powerhouse with documentary-style videos featuring ominous music, stock footage of nebulae, and authoritative-sounding narration presenting the prediction as revealed truth. These videos, often monetized with ads, turned a complex astronomical and historical idea into a consumable, emotionally charged narrative. The mechanism behind this viral spread is not human curiosity alone, but the cold logic of the algorithm. Social media platforms are designed to maximize engagement, and they learned quickly that content sparking mystery, awe, or fear keeps users scrolling and watching. The more you interacted with a post about alien prophecies, the more the algorithm would feed you similar content from other influencers, from conspiracy pages, from recommended videos. This creates a powerful echo chamber, a digital bubble where the prediction is constantly reinforced, its skeptics filtered out, and its believers given the overwhelming impression that everyone is talking about this. Doubt gets drowned out by a chorus of confirmation. Into this ecosystem stepped a new kind of storyteller, the popular science communicator and the UFO influencer. Some, with genuine academic credentials, might discuss the alignment's astronomical rarity, only to have their content clipped and repurposed by others to imply they were endorsing the prophecy. Others built entire channels on the premise of connecting dots, weaving together NASA images, ancient texts, and the 2044 date into a seamless, thrilling tapestry. Their authority comes not from institutions but from presentation, charisma, and the powerful feeling of insider knowledge they grant their audience. This meta layer is crucial to understand. The story of the prediction is now also a story about how stories themselves are born and spread in the 21st century. It demonstrates how a fragile idea, once confined to the fringe, can be armored by the relentless engines of digital distribution and community reinforcement. It makes us all, as viewers and sharers, participants in a vast, unconscious experiment in myth-making. Recognizing this process does not necessarily disprove the prediction, but it equips us with a critical lens. It asks us to pause before sharing that captivating video, to consider the source, the evidence, and the invisible digital currents pushing it into our feeds. We must learn to separate the genuine wonder of the cosmos from the manufactured thrill of the narrative built upon it. This self-awareness is perhaps the most important tool we can bring as we look toward that distant date, ensuring our gaze at the stars is clear-eyed, not clouded by the digital fog. Our focus on the cosmic alignment reveals a fascinating pattern, for 2044 emerges not just in one prophecy, but in many. Across a spectrum of futurist thought and spiritual anticipation, this same window of time is circled again and again as a pivotal threshold. While the stars may whisper of visitors, technologists speak of a different kind of awakening, the singularity. This is the hypothetical moment when artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence, leading to an explosion of technological growth that fundamentally and unpredictably alters civilization. Pioneering futurists like Ray Kurzweil have long pointed to the mid-2040s as the most probable horizon for this event, a time when machine cognition could become so advanced it redesigns itself, leaving our human minds struggling to comprehend the world it creates. It is a prediction of internal transformation, not external contact, yet it shares the same sense of an irreversible leap. Simultaneously, climate scientists map out a different, more sobering timeline. Their models project 2044 as a year by which we will have either succeeded or catastrophically failed in curbing global emissions. It represents a likely point of no return for certain environmental tipping points, such as the irreversible melting of major ice sheets or the collapse of vital ocean currents. This is a prophecy written in data, a forecast of a world fundamentally reshaped by our own actions. Then there are the spiritual and metaphysical traditions. Various New Age and channeled sources, independent of Sheldon Niddle, also identify the mid-2040s as a period of mass consciousness shift, a global spiritual awakening where humanity collectively embraces a higher state of being. Some interpretations of ancient calendars, like the continuing cycles of the Mayan long count, also highlight this period as the beginning of a new and purified era. So we have a remarkable convergence, a single date painted in vastly different colors by astronomers, computer scientists, ecologists, and mystics. Why does this particular moment in time hold such power in our collective imagination? The mid-2040s sit at a unique crossroads. It is far enough into the future to feel mythic, beyond the scope of our daily planning, yet close enough to be tangible for those alive today. It is a date many current adults might live to see, and it falls within the lifetime of today's children, making it personally relevant. It also represents a symbolic distance from the turn of the millennium, the next major cultural milestone on our horizon. More practically, it aligns with multiple long-term trajectories reaching their apparent climax, the exponential curve of computing, the cumulative pressure on Earth systems, and the cyclical patterns we read in the stars. This clustering of predictions suggests something profound about human psychology. We are not just anticipating an event, we are sensing an epoch. When disparate fields of thought, from hard science to intuitive prophecy, all point toward the same general horizon, it often reflects a deep, subconscious recognition of accumulating change. The alien return narrative is simply one particularly vivid thread in this larger tapestry. It gives a face and a story to the in-choked feeling that the world as we know it is building toward a transformation. Whether that transformation is technological, ecological, spiritual, or extraterrestrial, the underlying message is the same: a great change is coming. The diverse prophecies for 2044 ultimately tell us less about the specific nature of that change, and more about our shared human need to prepare our minds for a future that will be radically different from our past. The moment the signal is confirmed, a script written for decades by scientists in quiet rooms would finally be activated. The first call would not go to presidents or prime ministers, but to a network of observatories across the globe requesting immediate verification. This is the heart of the unofficial protocols, like those drafted by the International Academy of Astronautics. Their post-detection task group has long argued for a careful, transparent process to avoid panic and preserve the data. The discoverers would be urged to seek confirmation from at least 2 independent facilities, ensuring the signal is not a glitch, a secret military test, or a cruel hoax. Only after ironclad verification would a carefully worded statement be released to the world, likely through the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs and major scientific bodies simultaneously. The goal is to control the narrative with facts before speculation floods the vacuum. But what would that statement actually reveal? The content of the signal itself would dictate everything. A simple, repeating mathematical sequence, a cosmic "we are here," would trigger one kind of response. A complex data package, a so-called Encyclopedia Galactica containing schematics, images, or even a language primer, would trigger another, far more frenzied scramble as linguists, cryptographers, and computer scientists become the most important people on the planet. The most unsettling scenario is also possible. The signal is confirmed as artificial, but its content remains utterly inscrutable, a pattern of noise that defies all our attempts at decoding. This would be a unique psychological torment, knowing we are being spoken to, but being unable to understand a single word. The global reaction would fracture along familiar fault lines, yet at an unimaginable scale. Scientifically, it would be the unifying event of all human history, a moment that instantly validates the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and redirects all funding and intellectual firepower toward communication. Politically, it would be a crisis of unprecedented volatility. Nations would race to claim leadership in the response, debating who speaks for Earth. Security councils would convene in emergency sessions, not to plan a welcome party, but to assess an existential unknown. Would the signal's origin point be treated as a territory? Would there be a scramble to send the first reply, potentially against agreed-upon international guidelines? The potential for conflict and mistrust between earthly powers could, ironically, be the first consequence of learning we are not alone. Socially and religiously, the foundations of society would be stress-tested. For many, it would be a glorious affirmation, a divine plan unfolding. For others, it could shatter core beliefs about humanity's unique place in creation, leading to profound existential distress. We might see both mass euphoria and waves of deep anxiety, a collective identity crisis played out in real time across news feeds and dinner tables. The mundane machinery of daily life could stutter as people look up from their routines, wondering what it all means now. This thought experiment makes one thing brutally clear: the detection of the signal is not the end of the mystery, but the explosive beginning of a new and far more complicated human drama. The alignment might provide the when and where, but the true story would be about us and how we handle the universe finally talking back. The contents of that first message would determine the trajectory of our species for millennia to come. If the signal is a gift, a deliberate transmission of knowledge, it could represent a windfall beyond our wildest dreams. Picture our civilization receiving an entire library of solved problems. The most immediate and transformative gift could be the blueprint for clean, limitless energy. Imagine a detailed schematic for a stable fusion reactor, one that uses common elements and operates at room temperature. Such a revelation would not just end our reliance on fossil fuels, it would unlock a post-scarcity foundation for everything else. The energy to desalinate oceans, power vertical farms, and recycle all waste would become trivial. Our entire relationship with the planet would shift overnight from one of extraction and depletion to one of stewardship and abundance. Medical science would undergo a similar revolution. A civilization that has mastered interstellar travel would almost certainly possess a profound understanding of biology at the molecular and even quantum level. The signal might contain the principles for cellular regeneration, effectively ending aging as we know it, or cures for every form of cancer by explaining the disease not as a malfunction, but as a correctable information error within our genetic code. The concept of terminal illness could vanish from human experience. materials science would leap forward by centuries. We might learn the secret to room temperature superconductors, enabling lossless power transmission and levitating vehicles. Or we might receive the formula for a material with the strength of diamond and the weight of foam, making our current skyscrapers and bridges seem as primitive as mud huts. These are not just upgrades, they are foundational shifts that would redefine what it means to be human, freeing us from the ancient struggles against scarcity, disease, and our own planetary limits. Yet, nestled within this utopian vision is a chilling counterpoint, a theory that paints the cosmos in a far more sinister light. It is called the dark forest hypothesis. This idea, popularized by science fiction but taken seriously by some astrobiologists, suggests the universe is not a friendly place for loud, emerging civilizations. In a dark forest, every civilization is a hunter, hidden and silent, because to reveal your location is to invite destruction from a more advanced predator. The logic is grimly simple. In a universe of limited resources and potentially insurmountable biological differences, no civilization can be sure of another's intentions. The safest, most rational assumption is that any other intelligence is a threat. Therefore, the moment a civilization is detected, it is eliminated, a preemptive strike to ensure one's own survival. From this perspective, a signal timed to a planetary alignment is not a welcome mat, it is a targeting beacon. The alignment does not mark a return of benevolent guides, but the calculated arrival of a cosmic cleanup crew. This hypothesis forces us to confront a terrifying possibility, that advancement and aggression may be linked. A species that survives long enough to travel between stars might have done so by being ruthlessly pragmatic, eliminating competition before it can become a rival. Our hopeful transmissions into space, from the Arecibo message to the plaques on the Voyager probes, would not be seen as charming greetings, but as the naive cries of a child lost in that dark forest, unknowingly drawing the attention of something with far sharper teeth. This duality is the ultimate complexity of the 2044 prediction. It splits the future into two radically divergent paths, hinging on a single, unanswerable question about alien psychology. Are technological advancement and ethical wisdom destined to grow together, leading to enlightened, benevolent cultures? Or is the cosmos shaped by a colder logic, where the only civilizations that survive to become interstellar are those that are paranoid, expansionist, and dangerous? The alignment itself is neutral, a beautiful clockwork event, but the intention behind any signal it may bring holds the power to catapult us into a golden age or condemn us to a fate we cannot yet imagine. Our hope for a knowledge gift is a reflection of our own best selves, our curiosity and collaborative spirit. Our fear of the dark forest is a projection of our own worst historical instincts, our tribalism and capacity for preemptive violence. In waiting for the sky to speak, we are ultimately waiting to discover which face of our own nature is mirrored in the stars. The confirmation of intelligent life beyond Earth would not just shake laboratories and governments, it would reverberate through the very cathedrals of human belief. For millennia, our religions have provided a map of the cosmos, placing humanity at the center of a divine story. What happens when that map is proven incomplete? The initial reaction across faiths would likely be a profound and unified search for meaning, a scramble to interpret the revelation within existing scripture and tradition. Many within the world's great religions might see this not as a contradiction, but as a magnificent expansion of divine creation. A Catholic theologian could point to the infinite creativity of God, arguing that a universe teeming with life only amplifies His glory. Islamic scholars might reflect on verses in the Quran that speak of God as Lord of all the worlds, plural, suggesting a theological framework already spacious enough to accommodate other created beings. Buddhist and Hindu philosophies, with their concepts of vast cycles of existence and multiple realms, could integrate the news with relative ease, viewing extraterrestrials as other sentient beings on their own karmic journeys. In these interpretations, contact becomes a testament, a humbling reminder that the divine canvas is far larger than we ever dared to paint it. Yet, this inclusive view would not be universal. For more literal or fundamentalist branches of faith, the challenge would be seismic. Specific doctrines about salvation, the incarnation, and humanity's unique relationship with God could face direct, uncomfortable questions. If Christ came for humanity's salvation, what of souls on other worlds? Are they fallen? Did they receive their own revelation? These are not simple theological puzzles. They are potential fault lines that could split denominations and redefine core tenets. For some, the cognitive dissonance would be too great, leading to a rejection of the evidence itself as a grand deception. This is where the most extreme interpretations could emerge, framing the visitors not as neighbors, but as malevolent spiritual forces, ancient deceivers predicted in apocalyptic texts. The cosmic alignment would be seen not as a meeting point, but as the opening of a celestial battleground, fulfilling prophecies of a final, ultimate conflict between forces of light and darkness. This demonic narrative would provide a powerful, fear-based framework for those whose world you cannot stretch to include friendly aliens, offering a familiar enemy in a profoundly unfamiliar situation. Beyond the walls of organized religion, the philosophical earthquake would be just as deep. For centuries, humanism and secular philosophy have grappled with questions of our uniqueness and purpose, often concluding that we are the universe's way of knowing itself. Contact shatters that solitary pride. We would no longer be the only eyes gazing back at the cosmos, the only minds pondering its origins. Our art, our science, our moral struggles would suddenly be contextualized within a galactic community. Are we children, adolescents, or a failed experiment in the eyes of older civilizations? This forces a radical re-evaluation of human destiny. Our purpose could shift from one of lonely dominion to one of finding our place in a complex, interstellar web of cultures. The very notion of progress would be redefined, not by our own historical benchmarks, but against a standard set by beings who may have solved the problems that still plague us. The existential angst this could provoke is profound, a species-wide identity crisis asking, if we are not special, what are we? Yet within that crisis lies a breathtaking opportunity, the chance to finally grow beyond the adolescent phase of our civilization, to define our value not by our separation, but by our capacity to connect, to learn, and to contribute to a story far greater than our own. The alignment's true message may ultimately be an invitation to graduate from a solitary world to a cosmic citizenry, a journey that begins not with a spacecraft but within the human soul. The shockwaves of confirmed contact would travel instantly from the observatories to the trading floors. Global markets, the nervous system of our modern world, would experience a volatility beyond any historical crash or boom. In the initial hours, sheer uncertainty would likely trigger a massive sell-off. Traditional industries tied to earthly limitations, fossil fuels, conventional manufacturing, even sectors like pharmaceuticals, could see their valuations plummet as investors race to calculate their obsolescence. The only safe harbor would become the companies and nations positioned for the new frontier. We would witness the most dramatic wealth transfer in history as capital floods into aerospace, advanced computing, materials science, and anything related to space infrastructure and communication technology. Billionaires and governments alike would launch trillion-dollar initiatives, not just to listen but to build the means to reply and eventually to meet. A new economic axis would form overnight, separating those investing in the cosmic future from those anchored to a suddenly quaint planetary past. This frenzy would expose a brutal new reality, the devaluation of Earth itself. If the signal contains the promise of limitless energy or off-world resources, then oil, rare earth metals, and even territorial claims could lose their fundamental scarcity, the very source of their power and conflict. Nations whose wealth is built solely on extracting planetary resources could find themselves impoverished not by depletion but by irrelevance. This economic earthquake would ignite profound geopolitical tensions. The first and most volatile question would be, who speaks for Earth? There would be no clear answer. The United Nations would call for a unified, cautious response, but individual nations, particularly superpowers with advanced space capabilities, would face immense pressure to act unilaterally. The nation or bloc that controls the communication channel would wield unimaginable influence, holding the keys to humanity's first conversation. Imagine a scenario where the signal is received by a radio telescope array in a remote location, its data initially accessible only to a single country's scientific team. That nation would possess a brief, terrifying monopoly on first contact. Would they share the raw data freely, or would they pass and translate it first, seeking strategic advantage? The race to send the first reply would be a digital space race, with each major power desperate to be the voice that defines humanity for the cosmos. This could lead to a dangerous cacophony of competing messages or, worse, a secretive, unilateral response made without global consensus. Cooperation would be preached, but the instinct to compete, for knowledge, for technology, for primacy in a new galactic order, would be overwhelming. Alliances could shatter and reform based on this new imperative. Historical terrestrial rivalries might be set aside in a shared panic, or they might be amplified as each side fears the other gaining an insurmountable advantage from any shared alien knowledge. The prediction for 2044, then, is not merely a story of watching the sky. It is a stress test for our global systems of finance and governance. It asks whether our species, still divided by borders and self-interest, can muster the unity to face a reality that renders those divisions absurd. The greatest threat from the stars may not be an alien fleet, but our own inability to put aside ancient quarrels when the universe finally knocks on our door. The ground beneath our feet feels less solid when the sky holds an unknown promise. This profound uncertainty is why preparing the public mind is not a side task, but a central pillar of any responsible approach to the 2044 horizon. We must build a foundation of knowledge before the potential earthquake of discovery, not after the walls have already cracked. This preparation hinges on two interconnected ideas: public education and the long shadow of secrecy. The first is a proactive mission of enlightenment, the second, a reactive reckoning with our own past. Imagine a world where the basics of astrobiology are taught in high schools alongside biology and chemistry. Students would learn about the Drake equation, which estimates the number of communicative civilizations in our galaxy, not as science fiction, but as a serious scientific framework grappling with profound unknowns. They would understand the difference between microbial life on Mars and a signal from an intelligent civilization 1,000 light-years away, calibrating their expectations to reality. Organizations like the SETI Institute and NASA astrobiology program already do remarkable public outreach, but their efforts are drops in an ocean of media noise. What's needed is a coordinated, global initiative, perhaps led by UNESCO or a coalition of scientific academies, to integrate these concepts into standard curricula and mainstream media literacy programs. The goal is not to convince everyone that aliens are coming, but to equip everyone with the intellectual tools to process the news if they do. This education would inoculate against panic by replacing the terrifying unknown with a spectrum of understood possibilities. People would know that a signal, while monumental, is not an invasion fleet. They would understand the vast distances and timescales involved, preventing the kind of immediate, visceral fear that followed Orson Welles' broadcast. An informed public is a resilient public capable of awe without hysterics and curiosity without catastrophic thinking. This educational project, however, constantly bumps against the thick, stubborn wall of the disclosure movement. For decades, a significant portion of the public has believed that governments, particularly that of the United States, are in possession of recovered alien craft and bodies, maintaining a cosmic Watergate. This theory is fueled by genuine historical mysteries like the Roswell incident and more recent official acknowledgments of unidentified aerial phenomena by the Pentagon. The persistent lack of definitive, transparent answers has bred deep distrust. The 2044 prediction pours jet fuel on these theories. For believers in a government cover-up, the alignment is not a potential first contact moment, but the date the cover-up finally collapses. They argue that the authorities have known about this return timeline all along, and that the slow drip of official UAP disclosures is a controlled effort to soften the blow before the ultimate revelation. This creates a dangerous dichotomy. On one side, scientists pleading for calm based on evidence and education. On the other, a popular narrative of decades-long deception suggesting the truth is too explosive for the public to handle. This clash makes the job of credible educators infinitely harder. Why trust a scientist's measured facts when a retired colonel on a podcast claims the government has hidden anti-gravity technology in a secret hangar? The path forward, therefore, requires a two-pronged approach. First, a redoubled, transparent effort in scientific education and public communication about the real search for life. And second, for governmental bodies to finally, fully, and consistently declassify and release all historical UAP records that do not compromise genuine national security. Earning public trust requires radical honesty. The pre-2044 era must become a time of open books and open minds. We need to train ourselves not in blind belief or cynical suspicion, but in rigorous critical thinking. We must learn to ask the hard questions of both charismatic storytellers and opaque institutions. Is this claim supported by evidence that others can verify? What is the source's motive? Does this explanation require a vast conspiracy when a simpler one exists? This mental discipline is our most essential tool. Whether the alignment brings a silent sky or a shattering message, our collective response will be dictated not by what arrives, but by how we have prepared ourselves to meet it. The future whispers to us from the calendar, urging us to become a species wise enough and united enough to answer. The clock is already ticking, and with each passing year, the weight of that distant date will grow heavier in our collective consciousness. We are now entering a unique phase in human history, a 20-year countdown to a moment written in the stars. This long runway will not be a quiet wait, but a slow burn cultural spectacle, a pressure cooker for speculation that will reshape our media, our science, and even our spiritual landscapes. As 2044 draws nearer, public interest will pulse in predictable yet intense cycles. Initially, the topic will remain in its current niche, flaring up briefly with each new astronomical refinement of the alignment's precision or a fresh viral documentary. Then, as we cross the 10-year threshold, the tempo will quicken. Major news networks will run anniversary specials marking a decade to go. Scientific conferences will dedicate entire panels to the alignment, less about extraterrestrial hypotheses and more about coordinating a global observational campaign, turning the event into the astronomy world's equivalent of Olympic Games. We should expect waves of media frenzy, each larger than the last. Every minor discovery in astrobiology, like finding amino acids on an asteroid or detecting a potential biosignature on an exoplanet, will be immediately and breathlessly linked to the 2044 prophecy by tabloids and social media influencers. The algorithms will feast on this connection, creating echo chambers where the alignment is presented as an undeniable fact of future contact. Conspiracy theories will mutate and multiply. Beyond the classic government cover-up narrative, new branches will emerge, claiming that secret space programs are preparing for the arrival, or that elite groups are building bunkers not for climate change, but for an impending cosmic revelation. The very predictability of the date gives these theories a strange power, a fixed point around which endless speculation can orbit. Our culture will mirror this anticipation. The alignment will become a fertile setting for blockbuster movies and best-selling novels. We will see stories not just about the arrival itself, but about the tension of the countdown, the human drama of a world waiting for a verdict from the heavens. Art installations will use light and sound to simulate the planetary gathering, and musicians will compose symphonies for the celestial event. This date will seep into our creative subconscious, becoming a modern myth in the making. More concerning is the almost certain emergence of new movements or cults centered on the prophecy. History shows that definitive dates attract followers. We may see groups forming around specific channeled messages claiming new details about the visitor's plans. Some might prepare for ascension, selling possessions and gathering at sacred sites they believe will be safe havens or landing zones. Others might adopt a militant stance, preparing to defend Earth from what they interpret as an impending invasion. These groups will exist on a spectrum, from peaceful spiritual communities to potentially dangerous isolationist enclaves, all united by a shared belief in the transformative power of December 2044. This entire period, from today until the moment the planets align, will be a grand and unprecedented sociological experiment. It is a mystery with a known deadline, a global waiting for Godot, written in the equations of celestial mechanics. How we navigate this long countdown will be a preview of how we might handle the event itself. Will we descend into fear and factionalism, or will we use this time to build the intellectual and collaborative frameworks we would need to face such a moment with unity and wisdom? The slow approach of the alignment holds up a mirror, and for the next 2 decades we will be watching our own reflection change in its light. The human mind craves a narrative, a story where the planets align and something extraordinary happens. Yet that something does not necessarily have to arrive in a starship. Beyond the extraterrestrial hypothesis, a vibrant ecosystem of alternative theories thrives, each interpreting the 2044 alignment through a different lens of possibility. One of the most prominent threads in this tapestry comes from various New Age and metaphysical circles, which propose that the alignment is not about physical contact but about energetic resonance. In this view, the solar system is a living entity, and the planets are massive bodies that emit subtle energy fields or vibrational frequencies. As they draw into this rare configuration, their combined energies are said to create a unique interference pattern, a kind of celestial symphony that washes over the Earth. This cosmic sound wave is theorized to interact with the planet's own energetic grid. Points like the ley lines of ancient lore or the Earth's Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic heartbeat of our world. Proponents suggest this influx of refined energy could act as a catalyst for a global shift in human consciousness. It would not be a message to decode, but a frequency to attune to, potentially elevating collective awareness, intuition, and empathy. Imagine the alignment not as a beacon for others, but as a tuning fork for ourselves, striking a chord that helps humanity harmonize at a higher level of understanding and unity. This idea, while untestable by traditional science, speaks to a deep-seated intuition that we are not separate from the cosmos, but intimately connected to its rhythms. A far more tangible and concerning alternative ties the alignment to Earth's own volatile systems. Could this celestial calendar mark a window for a predicted geological or climatic tipping point? Some researchers in Earth system science note that while the planet's gravitational pull is minuscule, long-term cyclical patterns in the solar system, driven by the slow wobble of orbits, do correlate with grand climatic cycles over tens of thousands of years like the ice ages. The 2044 alignment, they argue, could be a visible marker of a less visible shift in these immense celestial cycles, one that subtly influences solar radiation or Earth's orbital parameters. More directly, by the mid-2040s, our planet will be deep into the consequences of anthropogenic climate change. The alignment could simply be a stark temporal backdrop against which a man-made crisis reaches a crescendo, a year when rising seas, supercharged storms, or irreversible thawing cross a critical threshold. In this sobering scenario, the cosmic spectacle overhead would mirror a terrestrial emergency below, a coincidence of timing that future historians might note with tragic irony. The prophecy, then, would be half right. A great change would coincide with the alignment, but its source would be firmly rooted in the choices we made on our own world, not in visitors from another. Perhaps the most profound alternative explanation lies within us. The theory of a mass human evolutionary leap suggests that the alignment acts not as a cause, but as a psychological trigger. For decades, the date has been seeded into the global psyche, a meme of transformation. As the day approaches, the sheer weight of collective expectation, the focused attention and intention of billions of people contemplating a single, future moment of potential change, could itself become a transformative force. This is the concept of a psychic singularity, where human consciousness, amplified by global connectivity and focused by a shared narrative, reaches a critical mass and tips into a new state of being. It is the idea that we are on the cusp of evolving not our bodies, but our minds, unlocking latent capacities for telepathy, profound intuition, or cooperative thought. The alignment provides the perfect symbolic framework for this internal event. Just as distant planets synchronize in the heavens, so too could human minds synchronize in a wave of awakening, realizing our fundamental interconnectedness. This leap would not be delivered to us, it would be summoned from within, using the alignment as a collective meditation point, an agreed-upon moment to turn inward and activate our own dormant potential. The mystery of 2044, from this perspective, is a mirror held up to our own becoming. Whether the sky speaks or stays silent, the true event may be the one we choose to create inside ourselves, using the ancient dance of the planets as the clock for our own renaissance. History has a way of puncturing our most fervent prophecies with the quiet, relentless passage of time. We need only glance back a little over a decade to a global phenomenon that felt just as certain, just as charged with meaning as the 2044 prediction does today. The year 2012 loomed in the collective imagination, fueled by a widespread interpretation of the ancient Maya long count calendar. Countless books, documentaries, and websites proclaimed that December 21st of that year marked the definitive end of a world age, a moment of apocalyptic transformation or even cosmic realignment. The air was thick with anticipation, dread, and a strange excitement. Then the sun rose on December 22nd. The world, in any physical or obvious sense, had not ended. The profound shift many had braced for did not materialize. For the vast majority, the date became a punchline, a meme about survival. But for the true believers who had staked their identities, finances, and sometimes their entire life's purpose on the prophecy, the aftermath was a complex and often painful reckoning. This event, and others like it, form a crucial library of cautionary tales for any date circled on humanity's calendar. They teach us less about the stars and more about the fascinating, fragile architecture of belief. When a prediction fails, what happens to the faith that built up around it? The outcomes are remarkably varied. Some individuals and groups simply dissolved, their shared narrative evaporating, leaving members to quietly return to ordinary life, often with a sense of private embarrassment. Others, however, demonstrated a powerful psychological phenomenon known as cognitive dissonance reduction. Faced with the undeniable fact that their predicted event did not occur, they did not abandon their belief but creatively reinterpreted it. The end of the world was not physical, they argued, but spiritual. The shift was internal, a global awakening of consciousness that the mainstream media simply failed to report. The prophecy was not wrong, they insisted, it was merely misunderstood. This mental flexibility allows belief systems to survive even the most direct contradictions, bending reality to preserve a core truth that has become central to a person's worldview. To understand the potential social scale of this, we can look further back to a more organized example, an event known historically as the Great Disappointment. In the 1840s, a Baptist preacher named William Miller, through intense biblical study, calculated that Jesus Christ would return to Earth on October 22, 1844. His message gained tens of thousands of followers across the United States, known as Millerites. As the date approached, many sold their possessions, settled their debts, and gathered on hilltops in white robes, awaiting ascension into heaven. When the day passed without event, the disappointment was so profound it gave the event its name. The movement fractured, some left entirely disillusioned. But from the fragments, new denominations were born, including what would eventually become the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The core belief was not discarded, but the interpretation was adjusted, the date recalculated as a spiritual event in heaven, not a physical one on earth. The social and psychological effects of such a mass letdown are profound. On an individual level, it can lead to a crisis of meaning, financial ruin, and deep social alienation from friends and family who did not share the belief. On a community level, it can either shatter a group or forge it into something new and more resilient, bound by a shared experience of tribulation and a renewed, more nuanced faith. These historical echoes are not meant to mock belief, but to illuminate a pattern. They show us how the human mind grapples with the tension between hope and evidence, between a desired narrative and an indifferent universe. As we consider the 2044 alignment, this legacy asks us to hold our expectations with a lighter grip. It encourages a healthy, resilient skepticism, not a cynical dismissal of all wonder, but a mindful awareness of our own capacity for pattern-seeking and wishful thinking. Whether you feel hope or fear about what that December might bring, building a foundation that can withstand either profound revelation or profound silence is perhaps the wisest preparation of all. For the true test may not be in how we greet visitors from the stars, but in how we greet the dawn of December 25th, 2044, whatever it may bring. The most probable outcome for December 2044 is a breathtakingly silent sky. After the planets complete their majestic dance, the telescopes will find no new stars, the radio antennas will hear only the ancient hiss of the cosmos, and the world will wake up on December 25th to a sun that feels, for a moment, almost disappointingly ordinary. This is not cynicism, but a frank acknowledgement of statistics and history. The universe is vast and its default setting is quiet. So what happens then to the belief that has been building for decades when the awaited moment passes without a whisper? The initial reaction would likely be a profound collective pause, a global intake of breath held for too long. For many, it would be a moment of quiet deflation, a release of tension that leaves behind a curious emptiness. The story that gave shape to the future suddenly dissolves and the calendar stretches ahead, blank once more. But for the core community of believers, the story does not end, it transforms. The human mind, when faced with evidence that contradicts a deeply held conviction, does not simply delete the belief. It begins a fascinating process of rationalization, bending the narrative to preserve its heart. The first and most common explanation would be that the signal was simply too subtle for our crude instruments. Followers might argue that the message was not a radio blast, but a gentle shift in consciousness, a vibrational change that only the most spiritually attuned could perceive. They would point to small, subjective events, a wave of reported dreams that night, a sense of global peace, or a spike in meditation app usage as proof that something did happen, just not in the way we expected. The prophecy was not wrong, they would say. Our ability to perceive it was inadequate. Another powerful rationalization would center on human unreadiness. The narrative would shift from a scheduled delivery to a failed test. Perhaps the visitors observed our divided, fearful world in the lead-up and decided we were not yet mature enough for open contact. Our wars, our political strife, our environmental neglect became a cosmic quarantine, a reason for them to hold back. In this version, the alignment was not a rendezvous but an observation post, and we were found wanting. This reframe actually strengthens the belief, adding a moral imperative. It places the blame not on the prophecy but on ourselves, urging greater unity and spiritual preparation for the next opportunity. And there will always be a next opportunity. The most predictable evolution of the myth would be the recalculation of the date. Scholars within the community would revisit the ancient texts or the original channelings, finding a subtle error in translation, a misaligned zodiac, or a forgotten leap year. They might declare that the true alignment's energetic window lasts for months or even years, and that the physical gathering of planets was merely the opening of a longer portal. A new, more precise date would be set, perhaps for 2045 or 2050, keeping the hope alive and the community intact. We have seen this pattern countless times, from the Millerites to modern doomsday cults. The belief is not a hypothesis to be falsified, it is a living identity. Letting it die would mean losing a sense of purpose, community, and a thrilling connection to the cosmos. Preserving it, even through logical contortions, preserves that meaning. This honest look at the most likely scenario does not diminish the mystery, it deepens our understanding of ourselves. It reveals that the prediction for 2044 is less about forecasting an external event and more about holding up a mirror to our own need for transcendence and narrative. Whether the sky speaks or stays silent, the story we tell about it will continue, evolving to fit the facts as we find them or as we need them to be. The planets will move on in their endless cycles, indifferent to the hopes we project upon them, while here on Earth, the human search for meaning writes its next chapter. Perhaps the most profound truth of the 2044 prediction has nothing to do with planets or aliens at all. Its enduring power taps into something far more fundamental within us, a deep and timeless human craving. We are, at our core, storytelling creatures. We do not just observe random events, we instinctively weave them into narratives with beginnings, middles, and ends, with heroes, challenges, and resolutions. A silent, mechanistic universe of expanding gases and colliding rocks offers no story, only statistics. It can feel profoundly lonely. A prediction like this one provides a magnificent script. It gives the cold dance of the planets a purpose, a dramatic climax scheduled for a specific date. It casts humanity not as a passive observer, but as the central character in a cosmic drama awaiting our cue. This narrative fulfills a powerful need for meaning, transforming our existence from a biological accident into a pivotal chapter in a saga that spans the galaxy. We are no longer just living our lives, we are participating in a grand story, and that is an incredibly compelling thought. This instinct is ancient, as old as civilization itself. For millennia, our ancestors practiced astrology, meticulously charting the movements of planets and stars, believing they directly influenced the fates of kings and the harvests of farmers. They practiced divination, seeking patterns in thrown bones or the flight of birds to discern a hidden order and divine a plan. They were searching for a signal in the noise, for a sign that the universe was not indifferent. The 2044 prediction is, in essence, a 21st century version of this same practice. We have swapped clay tablets for supercomputers and celestial omens for planetary ephemerides, but the goal is strikingly similar: to use the predictable clockwork of the heavens to find a clue about our destiny. We are still reading the sky as a text, hoping it contains a message meant specifically for us. The space age did not erase this desire, it simply gave it a new vocabulary and a new canvas. Instead of gods in chariots, we now imagine sleek, silent starships. Instead of an angry deity sending a flood, we envision a wise elder civilization offering salvation. The archetypes are familiar, but the setting has been upgraded to an interstellar scale. This continuity reveals that our fascination with the prediction is less about its factual accuracy and more about the profound human yearnings it represents, our hunger for connection, our fear of oblivion, and our hope that our brief, brilliant lives are part of something vast and intentional. In the end, the greatest value of this enduring mystery may not be whether it proves true. Its real gift is the set of monumental questions it forces us to confront, questions we might otherwise avoid in the busyness of daily life. Are we alone? What is our purpose in a seemingly infinite cosmos? How would we handle the shattering knowledge that we are not the universe's only children? By captivating our imagination with a specific date and a celestial spectacle, the prediction creates a shared focal point for this existential inquiry. It pushes us to look up, to wonder, and to prepare our minds for possibilities that stretch the limits of our understanding. The alignment itself is a beautiful fact of orbital mechanics. But the story we build around it, the hope, the fear, the speculation, that story is a mirror. It reflects back to us who we are right now, a species standing on the threshold, peering into the dark, yearning for a light to appear, and in the same breath, secretly terrified of what that light might reveal. The sky holds its secrets, but our journey does not end with wonder alone. Engaging with a mystery of this scale requires a certain discipline, a balance between open-minded curiosity and grounded discernment. The long wait until 2044 is not a sentence to be served in passive anxiety, but a remarkable opportunity to build the intellectual and philosophical tools we would need, no matter what that December brings. The first and most vital tool is a critical mind. In an age of endless information, learning to evaluate sources is not just helpful, it is essential. When you encounter a new claim about the alignment or alien contact, pause and ask a few simple questions. Who is making this claim, and what is their background or motive? Are they a credentialed astronomer publishing in a peer-reviewed journal, or a charismatic storyteller selling a book and a worldview? Does the evidence presented rely on verifiable data or on anonymous testimonials and blurry images? Legitimate science welcomes scrutiny and publishes its methods for others to test, while speculation often hides behind claims of secrecy or special insight. Practice this habit of gentle skepticism. It is not about cynicism, but about honoring the truth by demanding good evidence. This directly helps you navigate the digital landscape and avoid the trap of the echo chamber. Social media algorithms are designed to show you more of what you already like and believe, creating a feedback loop that can make fringe ideas feel like consensus. Make a conscious effort to step outside that bubble. Follow the social media accounts of major observatories, NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or the SETI Institute. Read articles from reputable science magazines alongside the more speculative content. By intentionally diversifying your information diet, you protect your perspective from becoming narrow and dogmatic, keeping your sense of wonder connected to the real world of discovery. Your fascination can also fuel constructive action, transforming anticipation into tangible contribution. One of the most direct ways to participate is by supporting legitimate scientific research. Organizations like the SETI Institute rely in part on public donations to fund their work, buying telescope time and developing the sophisticated software to sift the cosmic static. You can also contribute your own computer's idle processing power to projects like SETI at home, joining a global network of volunteers analyzing radio telescope data. On a personal level, you can deepen your own understanding. The story of the alignment is a perfect gateway into the magnificent science of astronomy. Learn the names and movements of the planets that will gather in 2044. Download a star chart app and find Jupiter and Saturn in tonight's sky. Understanding the clockwork reality of their orbits makes the predicted event more meaningful, grounding the speculation in observable fact. This knowledge empowers you, replacing vague awe with specific appreciation. Finally, use this long timeline as a catalyst for profound conversation. Gather friends or family and discuss the bigger questions the prediction raises, not as a debate about what will happen, but as an exploration of human possibility. What would ethical first contact protocol look like? How would our religions and philosophies adapt? What does it mean to be a good citizen of a single planet in a potentially crowded galaxy? These philosophical discussions are not idle musings, they are rehearsals for the future, helping us develop the shared vocabulary and ethical frameworks we might desperately need. Frame the wait not as a countdown to validation or disappointment, but as an open-minded exploration. Let your curiosity lead you to learn about the Drake equation, the Fermi paradox, and the stunning discoveries of exoplanets. Each piece of knowledge adds a brushstroke to a larger picture of our place in the cosmos. This engaged, thoughtful approach does something beautiful. It prepares you for any outcome. If 2044 passes in silent majesty, you will have lost nothing, only gained a deeper connection to the universe and a sharper, more discerning mind. And if the silence is broken, you will not be a startled bystander, but an informed participant, ready to think deeply about the next greatest chapter in the human story. Our journey began with a simple, beautiful fact, a rare gathering of distant worlds in the winter sky of 2044. We traced the clockwork precision of this alignment, a silent ballet of gravity that has marked pivotal moments across human history. From there, we ventured into the labyrinth of a modern prophecy where celestial mechanics met channeled messages, and a specific date was etched into the collective imagination. We explored the scientific possibilities, from the beacon hypothesis to the chilling logic of the dark forest, weighing the promise of cosmic gifts against the peril of unknown intentions. We confronted our own psychology, our pattern-seeking minds that weave hope and fear into narratives as old as civilization itself. We examined how this single date intersects with forecasts of technological singularity, climate tipping points, and spiritual awakening, revealing less about the future and more about our present anxieties and aspirations. Through it all, one central question has remained, luminous and unanswered. Is this alignment a spectacular coincidence or a deliberate signal in the grandest sense? The mystery, by its very nature, defies a tidy conclusion. To declare one answer would be to close a door that deserves to remain open, a threshold for our curiosity and our courage. Perhaps the true purpose of this 20-year countdown is not to await an external verdict, but to provoke an internal preparation. It invites us to look upward with a dual gaze, to hold wonder in one eye and critical thought in the other. To marvel at the universe's grandeur while rigorously questioning the stories we tell about it. This is the essence of our quest, a search for connection in the vast cosmic silence, a longing to know that our story is part of a larger, shared narrative. Whether the planets align in silence or in revelation, that longing itself is what makes us human. So, what do you believe? Does the alignment of 2044 mark a return, a renaissance, or simply a rare and beautiful night? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the unknown, subscribe for more journeys to the edges of our understanding. And never stop looking up at the stars with all the hope, skepticism, and boundless curiosity you can muster. The greatest discoveries always begin with a question whispered to the sky.